Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is our second video of the day, and we will be talking about the college basketball season as conference play has progressed over the last 2 weeks since it started at the beginning of the year. And a lot of notable games happened this week where there are, a few little teams that lost their undefeated streaks, teams that are trying to stay within, a dominant rhythm, a lot of momentum heading into March Madness as the season progresses, and we will be talking about our top teams right now that are currently in the top 10. So Arizona is currently number 1 in the country, undefeated, 17-0, and they displayed a dominant performances over the last few weeks. I think when it comes down to March Madness, I think this is something you want to look out for because if they can consistently do this before March Madness, it'll definitely raise a lot of green flags for them to put on some dominant performances and make it to the Final Four, or even most notably win a national championship. But you never know what can happen. March Madness is always full of upsets, so it's all about consistency. It's all about momentum heading into March Madness. So whatever team definitely has good momentum heading into March Madness, which I figure could be Arizona, considering that they've had dominant displays of great shooting, good defense, great team chemistry. Definitely they're going to be a leading contender. Number 2 ranked Iowa State, they currently, they just lost by a large amount to the Kansas Jayhawks at Allen Fieldhouse. It was a dominant shooting performance from the Kansas Jayhawks. Darren Peterson, he had a great performance. White, he shot well from three. Badunga provided some good buckets in the paint. And I think when it comes down to the Kansas Jayhawks, when they also have Darren Peterson and Melvin Council Jr. on the floor playing well at the same time, they can definitely be a threat. But unfortunately, when one of them gets into foul trouble and then one of them stays on the court while the other's on the bench, it can slowly hinder the offense just a tiny bit. But the Kansas Jayhawks found a way to get a huge win at home, and we'll see if that can turn their season around. But for now, Iowa State is now 16-1. They have had some good performances, most notably against the Purdue Boilermakers, where they shot efficiently from three, and that is one of the main reasons why they were able to pull away against Purdue. Most notably, that game was played at Purdue's home court, so that was a big win for Iowa State. So what remains to be seen if Iowa State can take this loss against Kansas and turn it around and get back to their winning ways and get back on track, because they don't want a loss like this to really hinder their season, because last season it seemed like the team was heading in the right direction, but then once February came, it really seemed like this team started losing a lot of momentum, started taking a lot of losses, and it really hindered their opportunity to really make a good run in March Madness. And number 3 ranked, the UConn Huskies, amazing defensive team. They had a very close game the other night on Tuesday night to Seton Hall. They were winning by a large amount of points. I'm pretty sure they had an 18-point lead, but we saw that lead crumble, and then Seton Hall was able to claw their way back by some turnovers, some clutch threes in the end. But fortunately for the UConn Huskies, they were able to pull away with the win in the end. But that's something to keep an eye on with the UConn Huskies. Now, this is the second time that I've seen them have a game where they take a massive lead and then that lead just gets diminished and then the game becomes very close in the last few minutes of the game. The second game that comes to mind was against BYU on, pretty sure it was on November 16th on a Saturday, and it was played at the TD Garden. That game, it was a really competitive contest, but UConn, in my opinion, they should have completely dominated that game from beginning to end, and it just seemed like they started getting very, they started losing focus on defense. Next thing you know, BYU clawed their way back, got the game very close. It came down to one final possession, and I think it just, when it comes time for March Madness, you don't want those types of things to happen. You never know if that can come back to bite you, because in March Madness, it's all about momentum. When a team is constantly, pressuring you in those final few minutes, and if you can't hold on, if eventually there will be times where maybe the defense won't hold up, and next thing you know, you see yourself getting upset by a team. So this is something to keep an eye on with the UConn Huskies. Obviously, their defense keeps them in a good rhythm, good momentum with winning games, but they need to find a way to hold on to their leads when they're already up by a large sum. And now moving on to number 4 ranked Michigan Wolverines. Michigan has had a questionable last week and a half, last 2 weeks. They had a very close game to Penn State, which it came down to one, It was a one possession game at the end, but then it saw them, securing the win with a few free throws. Most notably, they were just upset by Wisconsin at home this past Saturday on January 10th. And it was a very shocking defeat considering that they were playing at home. The odds makers had them as massive, massive point favorites. But as we know, it doesn't matter at the end of the day what the odds makers think. This is sports. Upsets tend to happen every now and then. It's just all about who is better on that given day. As for the Michigan Wolverines, I still think they are a very good team. They displayed a lot of great performances at the Players Era tournament in Las Vegas back in November. And they beat a good team in Gonzaga. They shot lights out. They have a great defensive team. But it seems that when the game is very close and close possession game within 3-4 points, it seems like they haven't gotten used to that type of playing style yet, that type of situational basketball. So this is definitely a loss that can teach them well, and they can look back on it as the season progresses, and maybe they can learn from it. And then once March Madness comes, similar situation with the UConn Huskies. It's all about how you play in those tense situations when it's a close game and there's less than 2 minutes left on the clock. Situational basketball. So I'm confident that they can definitely bounce back, turn their season, keep it back on track, and really just put this loss behind them. But that remains to be seen. So we'll keep an eye on Michigan Wolverines for sure, as they are definitely still a top team in the country. The Purdue Boilermakers sit at number 5. They are a very good team that have let that loss to Iowa State at home. They put that loss behind them. They've put on some great performances. They have a great ball movement, as I've seen. Their point guard, he's an amazing player. Let me find out his name again because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But let me see. Boilermakers. Braden Smith, great player. He put the Purdue Boilermakers on his back the other night, and it was a very good performance from him. He scored 0 points in the first half, but then in the second half he started driving the ball more into the paint, started shooting some fadeaway shots, driving the ball into the basket, and putting in some good points when the team really needed it to get them the lead. Because considering that they were losing just by a few points at halftime, this was a really good way of showing that they can depend on him when the game is getting close and it's getting tough. And that game was against Iowa. Iowa was shooting efficiently from 3 in the first half, but then in the second half, Braden Smith, he just came alive and started putting the team on his back. So I think when it comes time as the season progresses, he's definitely going to be one of those players that Purdue leans on to play well. And you don't know if he's not playing well, maybe they might get upset. You don't know. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But Purdue, they have great ball movement, great defense. Their rebounding is, I would say, is above average. There's some moments where they sometimes get out rebounded, but I think when it comes to crunch time and it's a close game, they definitely know how to rise to the occasion, and we've seen that a few times from them. So I would consider Purdue possibly sliding into the top 4, maybe top 3, because they did open the season. I'm pretty sure they opened as number 1 in the country. So I think they will find a way to claw back into the top 4, top 3, since they sit right now in the top 5. And now we move on to the Duke Blue Devils. They sit at number 6 in the country. And I would say that Cameron Boozer, he's an incredible player. He's going to be a high draft pick. And the team does depend a lot on him. The one thing that I think a lot of people put a lot of attention to when it comes down to Duke is their defense. Their defense has allowed some opponents to score a lot, but I think they found a way to really turn it around against Louisville. Louisville, when they played them at home just about over a week ago, Louisville is known for shooting the 3 very well, and they did that in the first half. But then as soon as the second half started, Duke started, upping up the defense. They started, keeping Louisville from shooting well from 3, and it saw them claw their way back and win. So I would say if Duke can just improve their defensive habits, they'll definitely be a leading contender in March Madness, because their chemistry is well. They know how to shoot the ball well. Good shot selection, because they are good at driving to the basket. And I think when a team is willing to get physical, get in the paint, and out-physical their opponents, that's something that a team needs if they want to be a national champion. Shooting does help, but I think if a team is able to get into the paint and out-physical their opponent, that's a huge edge because I think a lot of players, a lot of teams do depend on shooting well, but people don't realize that playing well in the paint can make a difference between a win and a loss, because sometimes getting those clutch points in the paint can put you 4 6 points up, because a team is not going to stay hot for a whole game. A team can be hot from three for a good 5 to 10 minutes, but eventually that will like go down a little bit. So being efficient in the paint is important, and we have seen that from Duke. So I think as the season progresses, they will be a leading contender for sure in March Madness. And a team, in my opinion, that should be higher ranked right now is the Houston Cougars. I have the rankings here on Google, so I'm going by this, but maybe the rankings might be a little different on maybe the NCAA website. But for now, we're just going by what the Google says, and they have the Houston Cougars ranked number 7. And I do believe Houston Cougars should be ranked like number 4 instead of Michigan, considering that their performances recently against Texas Tech and Baylor were extremely dominant. I would say that, you know, their defense is elite. I would say they are the best defensive team in the country. I just love the way they get physical, and they're able to really like they love those slow paced matches, and they're able to like take their opponents into deep waters and then find a way to like really drag them down, and then next thing you know, they make those clutch points when they have to. Kingston Flemings, he's been an all-star this season for the Houston Cougars. I think that he's definitely going to be a high draft pick when it comes down to the NBA draft. He made a clutch three towards the end of the game against Texas Tech, and he's really found a way to, use his versatility on the court to help Houston win. He's great with his ball handling, driving to the basket, elite shooting, and I think he's one of the main reasons why the Houston Cougars can definitely make a good run, possibly back to the national championship game in March Madness. And a team that has definitely caught a lot of people's attention this season is Nebraska. They're one of the only two teams left undefeated in Division One basketball. They are an amazing team, and one thing I like about Nebraska is that when they play, they have good ball movement. They play unselfish basketball, and they know how to shoot well from three, but also they know how to drive to the basket. And another impressive thing about them is that they don't commit too many fouls. They play committed defense. They just stand there with their hands up and just hope that the opponents, find tough shots, and next thing you know, they're able to put the pressure on their opponents. I was very impressed with their win over Indiana, as Indiana had a 16-point lead on them at one point, and next thing you know, Nebraska was able to use their defense and elite shooting to crawl their way back and get the win last Saturday. And so far, they are the real deal. I know people were questioning how legit they were, especially before their most notable win against Michigan State. But this team is for real, and I think as the season progresses, we will see more notable wins for them for sure. So I like Nebraska. It's a very exciting team. I think they are a team that brings in a new fan base, something new to watch in college basketball compared to those, the typical blue blood programs that we see in March Madness, especially in college basketball as the season progresses. But for now, I think Nebraska has definitely got people's attention. Gonzaga, they are a great team as well. They've hung in there. I would say that they use the players era as a way to really show that they can compete with other elite teams in the country, as in my opinion their conference isn't as competitive as other conferences in the country, but we still can't overlook that. But I think, eventually when the time comes, we might see a team take their spot in the top 10, just only because I would say that their conference isn't as competitive. So I would say another team that can possibly crawl back into the mix maybe could be Michigan State, because Michigan State, they do have elite defense. They have a similar playing style to, I would say, like a mixture of Nebraska and Houston. They play very defensive. They can sometimes shoot the ball elite from three, and they do have a lot of notable wins. I think their most notable win, in my opinion, was against UNC in Florida during Thanksgiving. And I would say that eventually maybe they might take Gonzaga's spot, only because that their conference is more competitive, but that's remained to be seen. Vanderbilt here are number 10. They just lost to Texas the other night, which means they lost their undefeated streak. And I think this was bound to happen. No, it's very hard to go unbeaten, especially with a team that's almost like new in this environment like Vanderbilt. So they do have a tough game this weekend against Florida Gators, and I think that will be a game that a lot of people will watch because the SEC is definitely a competitive conference when it comes down to college basketball. Florida are the defending national champions, but the roster is different as last season they did depend a lot on Walter Clayton's elite three-point shooting. So we'll see if Florida can maybe bounce back and climb their way back up the rankings since they picked up a few losses, most notably I think to UConn. And I would say that after the UConn loss, that's when people really started pushing them lower down the rankings. But they have found a way to get back to their winning ways, and we'll see if they can maybe crawl their way back close to the top 10. But for now, we will just focus on that. And, maybe early next week, I will want to make another video after some games that are going to be happening tonight and tomorrow. As, the Kansas Jayhawks are also a notable team. I think their win against Iowa State the other night was impressive, but we want to see if they can try to pick up some other notable wins. So overall, that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy all the sports that will be happening, the Australian Open, the NFL playoffs, whatever you guys are into, college basketball, NBA. There's always something new to watch, soccer. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.